What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Appreciate you guys following along with the year this year on the Bass Pro Tour. I'm out here for stage 2 in South Carolina, sitting next to Santee Cooper Lake. You can kind of maybe see it between some of these bushes and houses and stuff in the background there. Santee Cooper this week. I fished already for day 1. So this series, I was hoping I could do it before the event started. I could do it between practice and the event, but the problem was for this one, I'm in Group A, and our practice went right into Group A. So it's practice for 3 days or 2.5 days. We have to be off the water at 2 o'clock on the 3rd day. We have a meeting, and then I was in Group A. I fished yesterday, and so there was such a small gap of time, and I had to get all my rods rigged up and ready and get kind of prepared, and I was tired from fishing all practice. So I didn't get the video filmed for you guys before the tournament started. So we're gonna start it here after day 1 of the tournament. So I've already had 1 day on the water, and I had a decent day on the water. Yesterday was definitely a solid day. I only caught 5 scoreable bass. I only caught 5 bass all day. Pretty slow day. My approach to the day was using forward-facing sonar, fishing offshore, kind of my forte as of lately, and using my Lowrance Active Target 2 with my HDS Pro 16 at the front there, and using that CS Pro Solution C-Stick on my Power Pull Move trolling motor to hunt these fish down. And much different pattern than how I was catching them over at Toledo Bend and how a lot of guys were catching them at Toledo Bend. You know, similar use of the technology, you know, looking for fish, but instead of casting to fish that were suspended, I was targeting fish around brush piles and stumps and pieces of wood that were on the bottom. And there's a much less of these fish out there. You're not casting at all these blobs that you're seeing floating around in the water column. And so, you know, that was a much more finite way to approach them, much more precise. You had to, I mean, you have to be precise when you're casting the fish that are swimming around suspended too. But these fish, you got to line that cast up with that stump or that brush pile. You got to get past it, and you want your bait to work perfectly over top of it. And in these situations, there's multiple different approaches. You can throw something on the bottom, such as a Nico rig here. But it was weird. I couldn't really get these fish to eat that worm, and I really thought they would eat that worm. This is just a trick worm on a you know, nail weighted trick worm with a little weedless hook for fishing around that stuff. And I could not get these fish to eat that thing. I would see them sitting there and I could throw it over there and I'd watch them go down to it towards the bottom. I'd watch them kind of disappear into the bottom, knowing that they were looking at my worm, but I could not get them to eat that. So this week, after practicing, after riding around, you know, that was my approach for the tournament, but I'll kind of give you guys a quick breakdown of what I saw out there. Dealing with water temps that were fluctuating anywhere from the high 40s to the mid 50s, depending on the nighttime lows. We've had some really cold nights. When the sun gets up like it is right now, you know, it can get up into the 60s during the day. So some of those shallower backwater areas were warming up pretty quick. But overall, that water's like low 50s. So it's pretty cold water. You know, this is a shallow body of water. We're dealing with pretty muddy water conditions out there. A lot of guys I noticed in practice were fishing shallow around cypress trees or around grass or around just any kind of shallow cover. A lot of that out here on the lake. We got dogs barking in the background, but we're just gonna roll with it, guys. So a lot of guys are fishing that shallow cover on the lake, and I personally, when I came down here and rode around in pre-practice a month or so ago, had a really phenomenal day on the water. One of the best days of bass fishing, actually the best day of bass fishing for 5 bass that I've ever had. I had almost 33 pounds on a Rapala scale for 5. And if you guys know those Rapala scales, the ones where you can lock in all your weights and see your 5 fish limit, you guys know those things pretty much all weigh light. So that was a 33.5 probably pound bag for my best 5 that day. I had 3 over 7 pounds. I caught a bunch of 4 and 5 pounders, and those fish were all offshore. So my approach to this tournament, I was trying not to get pigeonholed with that information, only focusing offshore. So I focused on fishing some shallow grass. I focused on some shallow cover. I tried to fish that way, but it just seemed so slow to get a bite. It just seemed very like methodical to just get one bite. Like I'd work 2 or 3 hours maybe for 1, maybe 2 bites. So it just didn't feel very productive for me. And I have a lot of confidence right now in my forward facing. So in this event, you're going to see a lot of guys fishing those trees, and I guarantee you, you know, I can't look at any of the footage, but I can look at Score Tracker today, and I can see some of the guys' names at the top. And obviously, yesterday saw some of the guys' names at the top. You know, a lot of those guys fishing around those trees are going to either be flipping some kind of Texas rig jig, plastic, or you know, spinner baiting around those trees is really productive, or chatter baiting, that kind of stuff around those cypress trees. Personally, like I said, that was not what I felt confident in. And when it comes down to it, bass fishing, tournament bass fishing, especially at a high level, at any level, is all about feeling confident in what you're doing. I had to talk to high school guys all the time, and they asked me, what would you do in this situation on this lake? Or what would you do in this situation? How would you approach this? And my answer is almost always going to be, fish what you're confident in, fish what you're comfortable with. Fish how you feel like you're going to perform the best for you. Don't follow the norm. Don't follow the typical, you know, patterns, what you read on the internet, any of that stuff. Just do what you feel good about. So that was long-winded, but we're gonna kind of get into what I caught my fish on yesterday. I had 5 bass for 23 pounds, 9 ounces. So if this was a 5-fish tournament, would have been sitting really, really good, I think. Probably top 5, top 6, something like that. But this lake's got a lot of big fish in it. Caught all of my bass yesterday on a spinning rod. Actually, this is a 7-foot Ducket Micro Magic Pro, 7-foot medium, and this setup is very, very much the same. I use this rod and then the Wheeler rod, Jacob Wheeler's rod, over at Toledo Bend, and very similar technique. This is just something that I've been playing with a lot in the off season. This is a hover rig. So basically what I've got here, I don't have the plastic on here. You know, this is just the hook, but it's a weighted hook, and it's got a little barb on the front, and I've got a loop knot tied on there, and I've actually taken and JB welded the eye of that hook, because I've noticed, like I said, I've spent a lot of time using this, and I've had it happen, especially with really big fish, where you set the hook and you get a lot of pressure on your rod, and that loop knot will get caught down in that eye, and I've actually had this pull through and pop off, and you lose the fish and your knot's still tied, and the hook is in the fish. So I used some JB weld to kind of close that eye up on there, so that can't happen. It's kind of like a welded eye now. And that guy right there, it's an 1/8 ounce. There's a little bit of breeze out there yesterday. I like the 1/8 ounce or the 3/32 ounce, and what it allows you to do around this shallow cover on your forward facing is just hover it, hence the name, hover it over that stuff and keep it above those fish and give them a lot of time to track it and get up behind it and eat it. And the dirty water, you had to give them a lot of time in order to find the bait, and then once they got behind it, it was amazing how finicky these fish were. Especially yesterday, I had a ton of fish follow me, and the bites that I had were very, very finicky, just kind of come up behind it and barely eat it. I had 3 fish yesterday over 5.5 pounds. You know, biggest one was like 5 3/4. And they all came doing this, and I broke one off that would have definitely helped. I usually don't break them off on this setup, but that's it. You know, that's what I did the first day. Pretty simple. Pretty much kept this rod in my hand all day, rotated a few different things in. But tomorrow is a new day, and we've got new challenges ahead. We've got wind that's going to be coming out of a different direction, out of the southwest, and it's going to be blowing quite a bit harder. I've got a few spots that I found down in Lake Moultrie. Yesterday I fished in Marion here where we launch. The Moultrie is the further lake away. So my approach down there, I've got a spot, basically what it is. This video is going to come out after the tournament's over, so I don't mind telling you guys, but it's a blow through. So a blow through or a cut through in a big levee or a dike or something like that. And basically what it's got is it's got a deeper water section, and then it's got a couple little flat spots on either side of it, and it seems like it's shell or some kind of hard bottom, and those fish were relating to that hard bottom, and there was a pretty good population of fish there that I found in practice. I felt like my better size was doing this hover rig, you know, mid stroll, that type of technique. Got a lot of loud little birds and animals. It's starting to turn into springtime. You guys can hear it. These fish are probably starting to push, but there's still a lot of fish that are living offshore. But that approach down there, I found him in practice actually with this guy right here, vibrating jig, chatterbait. throwing this around that little cut through, and those fish were really aggressive. I caught a nice 3-something pounder in practice doing this on the cut through, and I thought, okay, this is something I could get down with, because the fish were in one spot. I cast it out there, missed one, cast it back out there, got bit again, missed it, ate it again, kind of missed it. They were kind of slapping at the bait, threw back out there, let one kind of eat it, get pressure, and then leaned into him and caught him. And so I was kind of keyed in that there was multiple fish in that spot. So I dropped my power poles, because it was shallow enough where I was sitting, dropped my power poles, and I started fan casting around a little bit, and I pulled out my same little worm I showed you guys earlier, that little Nico rig or nail weighted, you know, wacky rig, or whatever you want to call it, and flicked this guy around, and I caught 2 more squirrels in a pretty short period of time. You know, not giant fish or anything, but 2 to 3 pound fish. Good fish for this type of tournament with how slow everything is. You know, yesterday I had 23.9 in 12th place. I didn't even tell you guys where I ended up, but 12th place with 23.9 out of 40 guys. I think I'm 3 pounds 1 ounce out of the top 10. So you can tell by the total weight, it's really tough. You know, the top guy I think had maybe 45 pounds or so. And today the weights look like maybe they're going to be a little higher towards the top, but as far as overall field goes, it's still a struggle. You know, if you catch 5, 6, 7 fish a day, you're doing pretty well. So depending on size, obviously. So tomorrow the goal is going to be to go out there and utilize this guy right here. I really think that's going to be a good just clean up bait, catch a bunch of fish on it. I'm either going to throw that trick worm like that guy right there, finesse style worm like that, or possibly this one here. This is a really good bait on a Nico rig. This is nothing I'm affiliated with, but it's a Magnum hit worm, and I don't think color matters a whole lot. This one here is blue flake or blue fleck, but that guy there on the Nico rig, whatever you want to call it, it's really good. So I think that's going to be really good for just cleaning fish up in that area, especially if it's gotten pressure over the last couple days, which I'm sure it probably has a little bit. And another bait, if you guys knew me 4 or 5 years ago, you would know this was my most hated bait in bass fishing. But since then, I have won a lot of money on this rig, including $30,000 up on the St. Lawrence River. So it's come to become one of my favorite rigs, and it's another great bait for cleanup fishing, just kind of getting bites, and that is a Carolina rig. And on here, I had a 3/4 in practice, and I had just a screw lock on this bait, and I was getting bit, and I shook them off. So I switched it up to a 1/2 ounce because it's pretty shallow where I was fishing. I feel like that's going to be a little bit more easy to kind of float through the area without gumming up on the junk on the bottom. And then on the back there, I've just got like I don't have it totally rigged up because I don't want to tear the bait up when it's sitting in the rod locker, but that is just like a 3/0 straight shank hook. And then this is actually the Hog Walla from 6 Cents. It's a bait that I've been playing with a little bit. It's a good bait for that Carolina rig, very similar to like a baby brush hog or like a lizard or something. And it's got some nice appendages. It's a good little piece of plastic to put on that Carolina rig. And that green pumpkin blue flake is a great color here in South Carolina, so that's what I got on the Carolina rig. I think both of those, between the Nico or Neko and the Carolina rig, are going to be really good for just putting some fish on the board. When I first pull up to that little cut through deal tomorrow morning, I'm thinking that the chatterbait could put a fish or 2 in the boat, especially if the light is still a little bit low and if we've got some wind coming through there. And yeah, the plan is to run down to Moultrie. It's quite a little ways down there to that spot. I'm going to do that gig in the morning, try to put some fish on the board with those techniques and that cut through, focus on that area. There's some good clean grass around there. And then kind of nearby, I have another little area with a ditch where I caught some fish on the hover rig, but I was using the 332nd, the lighter one, catching those fish out of like 4, 5, 6 feet of water on my active target with the hover rig in that area as well. So, you know, the fish size was a little down there, but I really feel like I could get myself around more bites. I feel like I could get more bites more rapidly, and I never really figured out that shallow cypress tree pattern. That's not something that my confidence is very high, especially when you've got like just acres and acres and acres and acres of cypresses. You know, I didn't really look into that much, to be honest with you, in practice. I know that's something that's going to go down, but I focused on what I was confident in. That's what we're going to go out there and do tomorrow. I've got other rods that I'm going to rig up. I think maybe a weightless wacky rig could play a role in that area as well, through that little cut through, that blow through. But that's what I'm going to be doing, guys. That's sort of what's going on this week here at Santee Cooper. I know I'm a little bit long-winded, but I wanted to give you guys a pretty thorough breakdown of my tackle, my mindset, and sort of how I'm going about this event, how I'm making it work for Jacob Wall on Santee Cooper, not how it works for, you know, everyone else. There's a lot of good shallow water power fishing anglers that are doing well in this event, and I don't by any means feel as though I understand that stuff as good as they do, especially on a body of water like this. The water's down a little bit, so those trees are really shallow. I wanted to fish where I was confident, what I've been practicing all winter long. That's why I put that in my hand. It worked out with some big fish. If I hadn't have lost that one, broke that one off yesterday, I would have been inside the top 10. So clearly it's working. I just have to keep running my confidence, doing my thing. That's what we're gonna go out there and do tomorrow, guys. I appreciate you following along. Appreciate you watching all the videos on the channel. We're gonna keep trying to post consistently. Michaela's really helping me out. Until next time, guys, catch you later on the channel. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, down in the, I believe below this video, you can see a little subscribe button. Literally takes you a couple seconds. Smash that thing. It doesn't cost anything. It's super easy to do. Hit that button. If you enjoyed today's video, kind of breaking down Santee Cooper, hit the like button on the video. Until next time, guys, catch you later.